It started life as a cartoon symbol, but the No Más Sangre, or No More Blood collective, took to the streets on a recent weekend in Mexico City. They were protesting what they see as a failed strategy, Mexico President Felipe Calderon's military campaign against organized crime. Since Calderon took office in 2006, he has made his fight against the drug cartels, using the army as well as local and national law enforcement, a central part of his administration. There have been at least 35,000 execution-type murders over the last 4 years, 15,000 of those in 2010 alone. And the bloodshed shows no sign of slowing. Enough is enough, according to these protesters.
Me manifiesto porque ya estamos hartos todos los mexicanos de esta guerra estúpida contra el narco que inventó el presidente espurio Felipe Calderón. Y un hijo mío es víctima de esta guerra. Ustedes pueden ver la manta, está en el piso. Mi hijo era piloto aviador de la Fuerza Aérea Mexicana. Simplemente el avión se desplomó. No es una guerra contra el narco, es una guerra contra la ciudadanía.
So how representative are these protesters of Mexicans in general? Well, 2 polls published in February suggest public opinion in Mexico has reached a tipping point over the last 3 months, and that now more than half of all Mexicans have had enough of Calderon's strategy. More than 65% of Mexicans now think life in Mexico is less safe as a result of Calderon's strategy against organized crime. Nearly 60% of people think that the drug cartels, rather than the government, have the upper hand. 49% of people think that the next Mexican government to be elected in the 2012 elections needs a change of strategy. Jorge Buendia, author of one of the surveys, says that the No Más Sangre protest says a lot about public opinion.
I think that we have crossed a threshold in terms of tolerance toward murders, violence, and the public is really beginning to be fed up about that. The main thing is that the demand for no más sangre, no more blood, is really permeating among the Mexican public. No one wants to live amid violence, and this is really what everybody wants to get rid of. And I think the stopping the flow of drugs towards the US, right now it's becoming a secondary issue.
A number of factors have led to this change in public opinion. John Ackerman is a professor at Mexico's Autonomous University and editor of the Mexican Law Review. He has more than 20 years of experience living and working in Mexico.
Sure, I think there's a confluence of factors. One is the economic crisis, right? Although now we're supposedly coming out of it, the effects of the economic crisis of 2008 and 9 were really felt during 2010, and so that's one important point. The second point is that it's been 4 years now, so the story about things getting worse before they get better is no longer as feasible. The third point is the closeness of the election. So I think all these factors are coming together to create, yes, a tipping point in public opinion. This No More Blood campaign is this sort of an indication of what's happening. I think people really are getting frustrated and fed up with the lack of tangible evidence that the government is actually winning the battle against the drug cartels.
But ultimately, is public opinion really something that concerns the Mexican government? Be it the present administration or the new government, which will be elected in 2012 to sit in the seat of federal power here in Mexico City's National Palace.
Mexican politicians are very attentive to polls. I think this is very true. They pay lots of attention to the polls, and this leads to changes in their public discourse. Whether this actually has an impact in what they do while they're in the office or the policies they promote, that's another question. I think that public opinion as such has less impact on actions and more on public discourse, but social mobilization does have an impact. Public opinion of itself is not going to change action. It has to be people actually doing something in the streets and raising the costs for these politicians in a more overt way.
Life here in Mexico City carries on pretty much as normal. The capital hasn't been as affected by drug-related violence as other parts of Mexico. But what is clear is that Mexicans, both here in the capital and around the country, are forming pretty strong opinions about what they think of Presidente Felipe Calderon's fight against organized crime. And according to the polls, discontent is growing. The big question is whether No Más Sangre, or other collectives like it, will grow enough to make the government sit up and take notice. Deb Bonillo, Mexico reporter, Mexico City.